I didn't think much of the tape when I first picked it up. It was buried at the bottom of a cardboard box in one of those thrift stores that feels less like a business and more like someone's abandoned storage unit. The lights buzzed overhead, one of them flickering weakly, and the place smelled like wet carpet and old books. I was flipping through the usual junk, home-recorded sitcoms, exercise tapes, some Disney movie taped off TV, when I saw a black VHS with a torn white label. Just 4 words written in aggressive, shaky handwriting. "Don't look behind you." Something about the way the letters slanted downward made it look rushed, like whoever wrote it didn't want to finish the sentence or wanted to finish it as fast as possible. Most people would have put it back. I'm not most people. I've always been drawn to analog things, old cassettes, CRT monitors, clunky camcorders that record images like the remembering a dream. There's something honest about outdated technology, something raw, something that doesn't pretend to be anything more than what it is. So yeah, a creepy, unlabeled VHS at 2 in the morning in a dying thrift store. I bought it without thinking. By the time I got home, rain was tearing sideways across the windows, and the hallway outside my apartment was so quiet I could hear the light hum of the exit sign. I tossed my bag on the floor, kicked off my shoes, and dropped the tape onto the coffee table. For a moment, I just stared at it. The words seemed even messier now, like they'd shifted during the walk home. The label looked damp. Not from the rain, I'd kept the tape inside my jacket. More like it was sweating. That didn't make sense, but it's the only way I can describe it. I told myself I was tired, that's all. I sat down, turned on the TV, and pushed the tape into the VCR. The machine swallowed it with a clunk I could feel through the floorboards. The screen flickered, then filled with static, thick, heavy static, like a blizzard made of dead air. I waited for something else to appear. A timestamp, a distorted image, anything. Just static. I leaned closer. The static didn't look random. It pulsed, like it was breathing, expanding and contracting, slow and steady, as if the TV had a heartbeat. I felt a pressure in my ears, like the air around me had thickened. Then the audio kicked in. A low hum, deep enough to vibrate the glass on the table. It wasn't a soundtrack hum. It was uneven, organic, almost like someone dragging their breath across a microphone. I should have stopped the tape right there, but I couldn't look away. The static shimmered, and for half a second, I thought I saw a shape behind it, something tall, standing completely still, like a shadow trapped inside a snowstorm. Then a voice came through. Not loud, not even clear. A whisper. So close it could have been behind my ear. "Don't look behind you." I froze. The whisper wasn't coming from the TV. It was behind me. I felt the air shift, just a tiny pressure, like the room exhaling. My skin tightened from head to toe. Every instinct I had screamed to turn around, to check, to confirm there was nothing there. I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me already knew what I'd see. The whisper returned, a little closer this time, threading itself into the hum of the tape. "You heard me." The static on the screen warped, swirling like a vortex, and the tall shape flickered again, clearer now. Shoulders, a head, a long frame tilted at an unnatural angle. Slowly, very slowly, it lifted an arm. My heart slammed against my ribs. The shape on the screen raised its hand. exactly as something behind me brushed the back of my neck, a single cold touch, like the fingertip of a corpse. My breath caught in my throat. The whisper pressed into my ear, soft and deliberate. "Don't look behind you." I shut my eyes, and the room went completely silent. Not quiet, silent, like sound itself had been ripped out of the air. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. My body refused. My hands were glued to the arms of the chair, my legs locked in place, my lungs barely working. I felt the pressure of someone, something, standing inches behind me. The TV hissed. The static thickened. And then, slowly, the shape on the screen leaned forward, as if bending toward the camera or toward me. Its face began to form through the distortion. A hollow outline. Dark, empty eyes. A mouth that didn't open so much as spread. The whisper came again, now from both directions, the screen and the darkness behind me. Two voices overlapping, the same words spoken in the same rhythm. "Why are you still facing the screen?" My throat tightened. I couldn't speak. A faint, cold breath touched the side of my neck, impossibly real. And then something, light but unmistakable, dragged its fingertips through my hair. The figure on the screen tilted its head. And so did the thing behind me, perfectly synced. I don't know how long I sat there, waiting for it to do something worse. Waiting for a hand around my throat, or a face leaning over my shoulder, or the lights to go out. But nothing happened. Instead, the whisper softened into something almost gentle, almost patient. "You will look, eventually." The static swallowed the figure, the hum faded, and the tape cut to black. The presence behind me vanished. The air warmed. The spell broke. I finally turned around. There was nothing. Nothing but the faint smell of damp earth, like something had just stepped out of the rain and stood right behind me, watching me freeze. I didn't sleep that night. And I wish I could say that was the worst of it. But that was only the beginning. I didn't touch the VCR for the rest of the night, but I also couldn't take my eyes off it. I sat on the couch with the lights on, every lamp in the living room burning, trying to convince myself that what I felt, what I heard, was just exhaustion and imagination. My apartment wasn't haunted, my brain was. That's what I told myself, over and over, until the sun finally came up. But even in daylight, I kept glancing over my shoulder. I'd never done that before. I'm the type who forgets to lock the door half the time. I don't scare easy. But something about that whisper, something about how cold it felt against my neck, stuck to me like residue I couldn't wash off. By noon, I had almost convinced myself to watch the tape again. Almost. But every time I thought about playing it, I felt that same slow, creeping pressure build behind me, like the memory alone was enough to summon whatever had been there. So I left the apartment. I didn't even shower. I just grabbed my keys and stepped outside into the gray, drizzling afternoon, pretending I had errands to run, pretending normal was still an option. I walked aimlessly for maybe an hour before ending up at a small coffee shop I used to go to after college classes, a place with scratched wooden tables and a barista who always plays music too loud. familiar enough to feel safe. I picked a corner seat with a wall behind me. It was the first time the location of my chair had ever mattered. I kept telling myself it didn't mean anything. It didn't help. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my coffee. I kept replaying the whisper in my mind, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stop it. The exact cadence, the exact texture of the breath, the way it came not from one direction, but from two completely separate places at once. I kept seeing that moment from the night before, when the figure on the screen and the thing behind me raised their hands at the same time, not mirrored, synced, as if they weren't two beings but one, stretching across the screen and the air like a single thread pulled taut. I didn't realize how long I'd been staring at nothing until a voice broke through my thoughts. "Are you okay?" It was the barista, a kid maybe 20, with a nose ring and messy hair. He looked genuinely concerned. I nodded too quickly. "Yeah, didn't sleep much." He didn't believe me, but he shrugged and walked off. For a moment, I felt almost normal. Almost. Then my phone buzzed. I pulled it out without thinking, ready to ignore another spam message, but the notification made my blood freeze. It was from an unknown number. A video file. No text, no explanation, just a thumbnail of static. My vision blurred for a second as I stared at it. The cafe noise faded until all I could hear was my own heartbeat punching at my temples. I shouldn't open it, I knew that. But my thumb was already moving, tapping the notification. The video opened with a familiar hiss. Static. Dense, suffocating static. I felt the temperature around me drop. My breath fogged faintly in front of my lips, even though the cafe was warm. The static pulsed, just like it had on the TV the night before. Then the camera tilted, and I saw myself. Sleeping. In my own bed. The blankets pulled to my chest. My face turned slightly to the side. My chest rising and falling in slow rhythm. The room lit only by the faint scrape of moonlight under the curtains. The angle of the shot was impossible. It was being filmed from above, like the lens was hovering directly over me, like something was floating there. A wave of nausea crashed through me. My throat thrightened until it felt like I was swallowing glass. The video zoomed in, so slowly it made my skin crawl. Inch by inch, like whatever held the camera didn't want to wake me up. The resolution was awful, grainy, washed out, but the outline of my face was unmistakable, even the way I slept with one arm tucked under my pillow. I whispered, "No, no, no, no." Then the shot shifted. The camera wasn't floating. It was held by a hand. A long, pale hand that stretched out from the darkness above my bed, its fingers wrapped around the edges of an old VHS recorder. The veins along the wrist were thick, rope-like, pulsing faintly beneath the skin. The nails were too dark, too long, like something that wasn't supposed to have hands at all had grown them just to hold the camera. The things aren't bent slightly, and the camera lowered and lowered toward my face. There was a soft distortion in the audio, like faint breathing layered under the static. Then the figure leaned into the frame. I only saw it for a second. A face, or what might once have been a face, pressed close to the lens. Hollow sockets where eyes should have been. Skin that looked like damp paper stretched too thin. A mouth spread wide in an expression that might have been a smile if every part of it weren't fundamentally wrong. Static exploded across the screen. The video cut out. I nearly dropped my phone. The barista asked if I needed help again, but the words barely reached me. My entire body had gone cold, adrenaline pumping so fast my fingers were numb. I shoved my phone into my pocket, grabbed my bag, and left the cafe without looking back. I was halfway home when the second message arrived. Just 3 words. Turn turn around now. I stopped walking. Cars passed. Someone laughed across the street. The drizzle became a light, cold rain that streaked down my forehead and into my eyes. I didn't turn. I couldn't. My throat was burning. Tears blurred my vision, even though I wasn't crying. My legs felt weak, like my bones were vibrating. A second message came. Why didn't you turn? I stared at the screen. My breath shuddered out of me. I typed nothing back. Another message arrived instantly, like it had been waiting. I'm right here. I felt it then. A shift in the air behind me. Not a breeze, not a person walking by. A presence. Heavy, tall, leaning closer, just like the night before. A faint pressure touched the back of my neck, gentle at first, then firmer, like fingertips pressing down. My breath hitched. Then the whisper came. But this time, it didn't say, "Don't look behind you." This time, it said my name. And then it spoke again, clearer, closer, as if its mouth were brushing my skin. "You're learning." I ran. I don't remember the sprint home. I don't remember fumbling with my keys. I only remember slamming the door, locking it, then locking it again, my heart pounding so hard my vision pulsed with each beat. The apartment was silent. Too silent. Like the air was holding its breath. Slowly, I lifted my head, and my stomach twisted, because the TV, the one I hadn't touched since last night, was already on. Static filled the screen, and something tall stood in the middle of it, faint but unmistakable, waiting for me to look. The static on the TV wasn't just noise. It had a rhythm, a slow and deliberate pulse that matched the pounding behind my eyes. I stood there in the kitchen doorway, soaked from the rain, staring at the figure on the screen. It wasn't crisp or fully formed, more like a silhouette trapped inside interference, flickering in and out of existence. But it was watching me. I could feel it. My breathing scraped thin in my throat. Every part of me screamed to run, but where was I supposed to go? Outside, it followed me. Inside, it was waiting. I backed away slowly, afraid that turning my back on the TV would trigger something. I didn't know its rules. I didn't know if it had rules. The static grew louder as I moved. I froze. The figure leaned slightly to one side, its outline dragging behind it like its shape couldn't keep up. I swallowed hard, forcing down a tremor in my voice. "What do you want?" Static surged in response, the screen flashing white for a fraction of a second before returning to the shadowy silhouette. I felt stupid for talking to it, but silence felt worse. Silence meant I'd have to listen for its whisper, the one that always came from behind me when the room went quiet enough. The figure lifted an arm. My chest locked. The silhouette's hand moved in a slow, deliberate arc, pointing, not at me, over my shoulder. I didn't turn. I couldn't. I stood perfectly still, every muscle trembling, the air behind me growing colder by the second, colder than the rain, colder than the night before, cold like a hand made of ice hovering just above my spine. My eyes stayed glued to the TV. The silhouette took a step forward on the screen. Something behind me took a step too. I didn't hear it. I felt it. The floorboards shifted. A faint pressure of weight, like someone tall had closed the distance between us by one good stride. My throat tightened. I whispered, "Please, don't." My voice cracked on the last word. The static throbbed. The figure on the TV slowly raised its other arm, both hands extended towards me, its outline stretching unnaturally long, reaching through the distortion. Behind me, the air gathered pressure like two cold palms hovered inches from my back, mirroring the movement exactly. I shut my eyes. The room fell silent except for the hiss of the TV, but underneath that hiss was something else. Breathing. Not mine. Slow, ragged, layered in static like it was filtering through the screen and through the air at the same time. Then the voice came. Not a whisper this time, but a low vibration that shook something inside my skull. "Why won't you look at me?" I nearly collapsed. That voice wasn't from behind me. It wasn't from the TV. It was inside the room and inside the static and inside me all at once. I forced air into my lungs. I'm not supposed to. A faint, almost amused hum threaded through the static like laughter stretched too thin. "You think this is about rules." The silhouette moved closer. Behind me, the floor creaked again. I couldn't breathe. Not really. I felt the world tightening around me, shrinking to a thin tunnel where the only things that existed were me, the TV, and the thing breathing down my neck. "Why are you afraid to see me?" the voice asked. My heart hammered against my ribs, desperate and useless. "Because you're not supposed to be real." Another thin ripple of static laughter. "I am real," it said. "You looked once." I shook my head. "No, I didn't." "You did. When the tape played, when the air touched your neck, when I touched your hair." I felt my stomach lurch violently. "That wasn't looking," I whispered. "I didn't turn around." "You don't need to turn around to see a thing," it breathed. "You only need to feel it." Another step behind me, slow and calculated. I felt cold fingers brush against my shoulder, stopping just short of gripping it. I snapped. My body moved before my mind decided anything. I lunged forward, grabbing the edge of the TV stand, knocking over a stack of DVDs. I fumbled for the VCR's stop button, slamming it. The tape clicked, the static vanished, and the screen went black. Silence devoured the room, and the presence behind me was gone. I fell to my knees. My hands were shaking so violently that I had to press them into the carpet to steady myself. I stayed there hunched over, sucking in breaths that scraped like sandpaper. Minutes passed before I dared stand again. The tape was halfway ejected, like the machine had spat it out. I didn't touch it. I didn't want to be in the same room with it. I left the living room lights on and went into the bedroom, closing the door behind me, even though I knew a door wasn't going to stop something that could whisper my name into the back of my skull from thin air. I sat on the bed, wrapping my arms around myself. My body felt hollow. My brain felt wrong, like someone had reached in and rearranged my thoughts with cold fingers. I checked my phone out of instinct. More messages, all from the same unknown number. The top one read, "You turned the screen off. Then, you shouldn't do that. Then, come back." Under those 3 messages was a video thumbnail. Not static this time. A picture of my hallway. Dark, empty, but taken from inside my apartment. My throat constricted. My hands trembled so hard I almost dropped the phone. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to know where the camera had been. I didn't want to see what would be behind me if I opened the video now. But the notification pulsed, persistent. I tapped it. The video began with a slow pan down my hallway, the camera held at a low angle, almost like something crawling had filmed it. The lighting was dim, just the glow from the kitchen, the shadows stretching long. The camera dragged forward across the hardwood floor, inch by inch. Then it stopped beneath my living room doorway. The frame lifted, showing the VCR, the black screen of the TV, and my silhouette in the bedroom doorway just moments earlier, staring into the dark. A cold wave rolled through me so violently I gagged. The video was filmed seconds ago, while I was in the room, while I thought I was alone. The camera zoomed in slightly on the shape of me standing there unaware. Then the angle shifted, like the person holding it, or the thing holding it, was turning towards something else in the living room. And the shot revealed the VHS tape, still half ejected, still sitting there like an open wound. The camera leaned closer, almost curious. The static began to build, softly at first, then louder, until the image crackled with distortion. A tall shadow appeared in the far left corner of the frame. Not clearly, just the faintest outline, a suggestion of height and shape. It stepped closer. I stopped breathing. Closer. The figure moved toward the tape, not toward the camera. It reached out with a hand that flickered with static, its fingers long and needle-thin, leaving trails of distortion behind them. It touched the edge of the tape. The moment its fingers brushed the plastic, the video cut to black. Then a final message appeared on my screen. You cannot stop the tape. My ears rang, my pulse hammered, and then the bedroom lights flickered. Once, twice, then went out completely. The darkness swallowed everything. At first, I didn't move. Then I heard it. The soft click of the VCR in the other room. The tape sliding back inside without me touching it, without anything touching it. Unless the thing in the video wasn't just a shadow. Unless it had never left. The whisper came next. Close. Too close. Directly on the back of my neck. Come watch. My body trembled uncontrollably. Come look. I shook my head in the dark. No, please. No, please, no. A cold hand, real, solid, undeniable, touched my shoulder. You will. The TV in the living room turned on by itself. Static roared through the apartment, and footsteps, slow, dragging steps, began crossing the floor toward my bedroom door. I don't know how much time passed after the screen went black. It could have been seconds, or an hour, or a whole night that folded in on itself like crumpled tape. All I knew for certain was the weight behind me. Constant, patient, not breathing, but somehow present. A pressure, like gravity had chosen a new direction and was pulling my spine backward instead of down. I didn't dare turn around. My eyes were locked on the television, even though it was dead, even though nothing remained on the screen but a faint ghost image burned into the glass. Every instinct in my body begged me to look away, to move, to scream, anything except sit frozen with this thing at my back. But the tape's final message echoed in my skull with the clarity of a commandment. Don't look behind you. I couldn't tell if the warning had been for my safety or for its benefit. When I finally moved, it was only to blink, and even that felt like a violation of some rule of motion I shouldn't break. My hands were slick with sweat as I kept them braced on my knees, trying to keep still. The house was silent, but not the safe kind of silence. This was the sound of something listening, waiting, measuring me. The air behind me shifted, not like breathing, more like proposing itself. A soft scrape, like fabric dragging lightly across the floor, brushed the hardwood behind me. My heart kicked against my ribs so hard that my breath stuttered. My vision blurred at the edges. My tongue felt glued to the roof of my mouth. Something was close enough to touch me, close enough to choose not to. I tried to focus on anything in front of me, anything but the darkness behind my back. The reflection in the dead screen had become so faint, so washed away by dust and static that I could barely see my own outline. But I saw enough to know that my shoulders were trembling, enough to know that no other silhouette appeared beside mine. That meant one of two things. Either the thing behind me wasn't solid enough to be reflected, or it was standing so close, it was inside the boundary of my silhouette. The floorboards creaked beneath its weight, or lack of weight. It was impossible to tell. The sound wasn't human. It was deliberate, slow, methodical, like something testing the idea of footsteps more than performing them naturally. I swallowed, but my throat was too tight. The sound came out more like a choke. I needed to move. I needed to break whatever spell the tape had put on the room, on me. Sitting here wasn't going to save me. I had to get up. I had to get out. I had to do anything except sit like a willing participant in my own unraveling. But my legs didn't respond. My body was locked between fear and command. The tape's instruction repeated endlessly in my mind. My own voice, layered beneath the whisper on the recording, formed a sickening chorus of warnings. Don't look. Don't turn. Don't acknowledge it. Only now did I understand the horror woven into those instructions. If I looked at it, really saw it, it would become real. Not just here, everywhere. I forced myself to inhale a slow, thin breath that tasted like dust and cold static. My fingers twitched, a good sign. If I could move them, maybe I could move my arm. If I could move my arm, maybe I could reach the remote. If I could reach the remote, maybe I could turn the TV back on, play the tape again, see if there were more instructions. My hand moved an inch, and something behind me answered. A whisper. A soft, breathless whisper so close to my ear that every nerve in my body seized at once. It didn't sound like a voice talking to me. It sounded like a voice talking into me. The words weren't in English. They weren't in any language I recognized. They were shapes, sounds, vibrations, like someone exhaling syllables that weren't meant for human throats. I felt the whisper inside my skull more than in the air, like it bypassed my ears and straight across my thoughts. My jaw clenched. Tears burned behind my eyes. The whisper continued, slow and steady, like reciting a litany or a rule book or a ritual. And then, for a moment, something changed. The sound shifted, deepened, focused, and I heard my name. Not spoken.
As if it remembered it. My stomach dropped. Every muscle in my chest seized. My heart tripped over itself. The room felt instantly smaller, as though the walls pressed inward in response to the thing tightening its presence around me. My name sounded wrong in its voice. Maxillian. Stretched, distorted, pulled like taffy into a shape my name was never meant to take. Maxillian. I clenched my teeth so hard my jaw popped. I wasn't going to look. I wasn't. But the whisper continued, breath crawling across my skin. Maxillian, look. I clenched my eyes shut. No, I whispered, barely audible. My own voice sounded thin, weak, not convincing even to myself. The floorboards behind me groaned. Closer this time. Too close. Something brushed my shoulder. I flinched, a violent, involuntary jolt that nearly twisted my torso. but I stopped myself at the last second, jerking forward instead of around. A strangled sound escaped my throat, half gasp, half sob. The thing behind me was touching me. An icy pressure lingered on my skin, seeping through the fabric of my shirt. The contact wasn't a grab. It wasn't a push. More like a curious tap. A test. A suggestion. As if to say, "Turn around and see what's touching you." My heartbeat hammered in my ears so loudly it drowned out the world. I squeezed my eyes shut harder. "Please," I breathed. "Please stop." It didn't. The touch on my shoulder slid down my arm, a smooth, chilling stroke that felt nothing like fingers, more like the trailing edge of a shadow. I shuddered uncontrollably. The whisper returned, now directly behind the shell of my ear. This time, I understood it. 2 words. Soft. Clear. Cruelly patient.
Look. Now. My breathing hitched. My chest tightened. My pulse thrashed so violently that black dots erupted across my vision. I felt the edges of consciousness slipping, fear pulling me under like heavy water. I couldn't hold on. My resolve cracked. And in the space between fear and surrender, I realized something horrifying. It wasn't trying to scare me into looking. It was trying to weight me into looking, like it knew humans always break. I felt the whisper again, this time forming a new phrase, gentler, almost coaxing. "It's already too late." My resolve shattered. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, I turned my head, just enough to see over my shoulder, just enough to break the rule, just enough to undo myself. And there it was. Not a shape, not a figure, not a person. A distortion. A smear of darkness that bent the air around it, like someone had torn a hole in the room and something was pressing through the tear. Its outline shifted like smoke underwater, thick and thin at the same time, bending and unbending in unnatural rhythms. No face, no features. But it was leaning toward me, close enough that if it had breath, it would have been on my cheek. The instant my eyes met its non-eyes, the whisper stopped, cut cleanly off as if severed. For one eternal silent moment, the thing simply reached toward me. And then, the lights went out. All of them. Darkness swallowed the room, and something in the dark moved faster than anything should move, toward me, above me, through me. Or maybe all three, I don't know. I don't know where I went, or how long I was gone, or what piece of me didn't come back. All I know is this. When the lights returned, I was alone. The TV was off. The tape was gone. The room was silent. But I wasn't relieved. Because on the floor, right where I'd been sitting, was a freshly labeled VHS tape. Handwritten, rushed, jagged pen strokes carved through white adhesive. Look again. And on the back of the tape, in smaller lettering, I'm behind you. I didn't need to turn around. I felt it before I saw it. And this time, I knew better than to disobey.